G'day, it's Denodon here, and welcome to day 1 of the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo 2949, this year held in ArcCorp, where we are at the City Flight Terminal for ArcCorp Plaza, waiting for the tram which is just arriving now to board. Now, unlike last year's Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, which was held on Hurston, this year it is held, as I said, on ArcCorp, which means we have a brand new location. This time the Convention Centre, which we will get to in a moment. Obviously, just wait for the tram to begin its departure, and we can watch the journey, either through the side windows or, if you want, through the front. Now, there is a free flight going on all this week, so if you are wanting to come and tag along, you can just join the game today and just, make an account and come have a look, see how things are. Now, it seems every time I'm in ArcCorp, it's night time. And don't get me wrong, it looks pretty at night, but I like it during the daytime too. But yes, here we are. Here is the Expo Centre, which we fly through the centre bit. Now, you can't actually fly yourself in this area. This is restricted area just for these AI controlled trams. So don't get any ideas about flying there yourself. Now, which depot are we going to use? Sometimes they use that one, sometimes they use this one. Okay, we're going to one and not crashing through another tram, because I've had that in the past. So let's just disembark. Oh, someone's wanting combat assistance. No, thank you. Now, we don't actually need a ticket, because I guess we've already got them, so we can just ignore that NPC who's not even paying attention in the slightest. And we've got some coffee to go, but we don't actually need any, so we will go down through this corridor, because this is Star Citizen, so there's plenty of corridors, and we will enter the sort of main entrance area for the expo, where you're greeted by this nice shiny model of an M50. Now, just like last year, every day for the convention this year will be on a different manufacturer. This year it is Anvil, but this lobby area has a bit of all sorts. Now, what's amusing is that you can actually buy in-game shirts advertising the manufacturers, but as you can see here, the stock has basically run out on everything already. You can still get some hats, but there's not much left, which is amusing. I'm actually wearing some of this right now. If we spin around, there we go. Oh, also VoIP is making me look a little bit funny, so please excuse the sort of weird expression that's going on. The microphone's in front of my face and it doesn't know what to do with it. But yes, I'm just wearing the standard shirt, but that's not important right now. Let's go upstairs to the actual convention hall. Now, last year I did actually do a video on every day of the convention. However, I wasn't actually able to edit and upload most of those videos because they just didn't work. My editing software didn't work, which was great fun. But let's ignore that for now, and we'll go into the entrance hall, or rather into the actual chamber itself. I forgot, I've got to remember to actually call the elevator first. The elevator doors don't just magically open. So here we go, let's go. So we still have to ride an elevator, but at least we've got an actual location we're going to. It's not just a random elevator that somehow takes you from the spaceport to a convention, I guess, buried underground under the spaceport somewhere in Lawville. So here we are, stepping off the elevator, and welcome to what looks fairly familiar, because it would make sense to recycle the assets. However, this year we are not greeted by an arrow sitting right in the middle. That's now over on the left. The Anvil Arrow, of course, being the first ship that was, or rather it had its first concept last year during the expo. This year it's actually been flyable for a year, so it's not a showcase ship anymore. Now instead they've got a few other things scattered around, like this one right here, the Anvil Ballista, a giant, basically SAM site, mobile SAM site, anti-air missiles. Look at the size of the missiles. And it is, a proper vehicle in its own right. We could rent it, of course, if we wanted to here, but I'm not actually interested in that, because you can rent every ship here, that's nothing new. But yeah, little bit dark. So we can't see a lot in here right now, and I can't remember the keybind for the light, but it is a little interior, but it's not too bad, to be honest. But we'll escape, and exit, does not really escape, and over here you got the Anvil Hawk, the bounty hunting ship that they introduced a little while ago. Still one of the cooler looking ships in my opinion. It just looks like a bird of prey in some interesting angular way. And of course, it's bristling with guns, as you would expect of a bounty hunting ship. Across the hall, we have the Anvil Arrow. This is the ship, like I said, that was introduced last year. It is a light fighter and is actually one of the best fighters in the game right now, because it is actually incredibly small and incredibly agile, but also quite good firepower. Now you can rent this one in-game from a few locations, even outside of the expo. And I totally recommend you doing it if you have any interest in combat and want to try out a ship a little better than maybe your Mustang or your Aurora. Starting from left to right, we have the Anvil Terrapin, the little turtle-like armoured exploration ship. One of my favourite designs actually, just the very angular nature of it. Maybe not the most useful ship right now, but it can actually scan and you can use it to locate mineable resources, so it has that going for it. When it's actually complete, it will be a properly armoured vessel that is actually quite tanky, which sounds good to me. It's tanky, it's stealthy, it's a little bit of all sorts, which is always nice. And it can actually fit in a few of the transport ships that we got at the moment, so that's pretty cool. Opposite the Terrapin, we have this beast, the Anvil Hurricane. This is a two-seat heavy fighter slash turret fighter of a sort. You can see it has quite the large size 4 guns on the nose, and then it has that manned turret at the top with 4 more guns. Now, you do need 2 people to fly this. You can't have the pilot control that turret in any way, at least not for the moment. But it does pack a considerable punch as a ship of this size. It is, however, very fragile. Its shield, whilst decent, is not great, and it doesn't have a lot of hit points in any sort of way. Given we don't actually have armor yet, hit points are all we can go from. So don't expect to be fighting much in combat. This is very much your boom and zoom fighter. Get in there, knock down someone's shield, do the damage, and then get out. Next up, we have the Hornet series. Now, as they're all fairly similar ships, I'm only going to run through these pretty quickly. In front of us, you have the F7c Wildfire, a special edition of the regular Hornet, outfitted with a different loadout. You have a main gun instead of the turret on top, size 4 if I remember right, and then you have some big guns on the side wings, and no nose guns as far as I'm aware. No, there is no nose guns on here, but it is quite the firepower for a ship of this size. Next up, we have the Hornet Ghost, which removes some of the firepower and instead replaces it with more stealthy components, making it a little bit of a harder ship to detect. And some of this is actually implemented in the game. This ship is actually quite hard to spot right now, which is pretty good if you're wanting to, not be caught. Next up, you have the Beast. That is the Super Hornet, the 2-seat variant, that has the manned turret on the top, which is controlled actually remotely by the second seater, and the chin turret as well on the bottom here, which looks a little bit funny with the size of the guns on it, and then you have the requisite guns on the side as well. This is actually probably the best Hornet to get, as long as you have, a second person to benefit with you. And finally, you have the Hornet Tracker. This is the one that replaces the central turret with extra scanners, which makes it a little bit of a sort of AWACS ship, I suppose. Could be useful in a fleet situation. At the moment, doesn't particularly have that much use. However, I do believe its scanning range is longer than many, so it has at least some value. It wouldn't be a day on the show floor without the release of a new ship. And in this case, it's a little one, the one in front of me, the Pisces. It originally began as a snub fighter, or transport, to go with the Carrack, which is the exploration ship not actually on display this year. Now, the Pisces in front of us is a little shuttle, and as you can tell by the boxy shape of it, it's actually quite spacious. It has only 2 guns at the front, although it can fit 4, and the missiles, but in the back here, you've got room for having 4 cargo boxes, you can see there on each side, and then you have 3 seats at the front. Now, it's a snub fighter that you can carry in another ship, but does actually have a quantum drive, so you can use it independently, which is really rather nice. And finally, we have the beast that is the Anvil Valkyrie. Now, this ship is a huge gunship, dropship, transport, whatever you want to call it, that is just bristling, and I do mean literally bristling with guns. You would have seen this in last year's show as well. I need to do an individual ship review of this at some point. But yes, lots of guns, lots of capacity. Now it can actually carry cargo in addition to vehicles, which makes it an incredibly useful ship. I love these remote turrets on the ends of the wings, by the way. They have some great arcs of fire. But yes, this is overall the best ship to carry if you want, a large troop movement with a few vehicles to take along with them. However, you can't actually fit the tank in there, so keep that in mind. So that's it for day 1 of the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo. Unfortunately, the Anvil Gladiator, which was on display last year, is not present this year. Neither, of course, is the F8 or the F7a modern military variant of the Hornet, and of course the aforementioned Karak. Now, I'm sure these could be added in future, but I know at least they had some of them last year, so it's interesting that they have omitted them this year. However, overall, Anvil offers its typical array of ships, probably the ones most people would associate with them, at least especially when it comes to this ring of Hornets in front of us. And of course the newcomer with the Pisces. So what do you think? A good day? Not a good day? I don't know. Leave a comment if you want. Otherwise, I'm Denodon. This was Star Citizen. Have a safe landing.